guys. Welcome to Talkin Thursday. This is Jim. I'm Jane. Jim's got a topic today. Go, Jim. How do you like that for directness?
Wow, yes. That's right.
Bam!
There. Well, gee, thanks for dropping that on me like that.
Excuse me? Wait till you hear the topic.
Yes, I would like to get some feedback on, or I would certainly like to get Jane's opinion on the topic of legalizing prostitution. And I'm for the idea. I think we should legalize it.
Okay,
but with
explain why.
Several caveats.
Would you please explain why?
I should explain
why. Why do you think that you would like it legalized, and what are your stipulations or qualifications? Or
it's probably the world's oldest profession.
Okay, fair enough.
It's been going around for how many thousands of years now?
Fair enough.
And the whole practice has not been kind to women.
Why?
Why hasn't it? Well, I think because of the patriarchy, because of the attitudes and cultural norms of men over the years.
Okay.
And all that sort of stuff. I don't see it as something that's horribly harmful for women, if, and there's many big ifs here.
Okay.
If it was conducted as a business, so that women would conduct themselves like any other private enterprise would, like an accountant.
It is conducted as a business.
Not private and not legal. It's still against the law. Women can still be punished for it, fined for it. They're still seen as being sub kind of society around it all. But it tends to be run by gangs, criminals, which is not the way it should be in my estimation.
So they control the money, they control the women, and the women don't get the money for it. No. Or at least certainly not.
They get a certain percentage, but no,
certainly not what they could get.
No. Well, they're doing.
So is that what you're saying? They're
doing 100% of the work. They should be getting 100% of the money.
Agreed. And that's just not the way it works. So that's the part that's not fair.
Well, that's one of the things that's not fair. Yeah, about the whole deal. Women who choose to go into this this line of work, and it is a line of work. I mean, why do we limit certain people from using certain parts of their body to make a living? Now, I use my hands, I use my mouth, I use my head, I use my arms, I use my legs to climb ladders and trees, and I use all the various parts of my body except for one to make a legitimate income.
I think it's because it has something to do with what is socially acceptable.
Well,
and
okay.
The stigma that is attached with prostitution is not a kind one. As
being a lawyer, but it doesn't stop people from being a lawyer.
Yeah, but yeah. I was going to say you need lawyers, but you kind of need sex too.
Yeah,
so
well, absolutely, and that's part of my not an argument, but part of my thing here is there's a lot of, and it's not just men, it's women too, that use prostitutes. They use
escort services
17,
or something.
18-year-old boys. They use 17, 18, 13-year-old girls. I mean, it's not really a male only deal.
So I have a question. And I'm sure that I've probably this is probably a topic that I've probably never ripped apart from
this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
From the way that I was raised. So back in the days of the Bible, men had many wives. How did having multiple sexual partners become socially unacceptable?
How did it become acceptable? Just turn it around and look at it the other way. Why is it okay for that particular group of people, for any group of people to have, well, I got 5 wives, you know.
Back to this prostitution thing.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, and I just have a hard time actually pinning down what I personally think about it, because I think there's too much that I haven't sorted through in my mind. I agree with you in that I don't see any difference between legalizing prostitution or legalizing weed or legalizing any of these other things.
Exactly.
I don't see a difference. They're all considered socially unacceptable, or they were at one time or another. It was not okay to gambling. Sure.
Huge
Let's
problem.
throw everything into a bucket there.
Yeah.
In my head, because, as you mentioned, prostitution has been around forever, I guess in my head, I kind of felt like, what do you mean it's not legal? Like, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I guess I have seen movies or watched Cops or whatever it is on TV, those live police shows where people get arrested. I guess I have seen that, for sure. But it never really clicked in my head that this is like a real thing. People do it all the time. All the time.
Yes, they do.
Like, whether you're married, single, in a relationship, it doesn't seem to matter. You want a little something, something, you go get yourself a little something, something, one way or another.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in my head, I'm thinking, I don't see what the difference is if it's legalized or not. If you want that, you're going to find it.
Oh.
End of story.
I think women should be allowed to register themselves as a legal business. They should have a tax number. They should pay income tax.
That's
Just like
fair.
anybody else that provides a service for a living. Just like accountants and lawyers and engineers and consultants. I mean, my goodness, if there's any group that... Anyway. So they should be able to write off their business expenses, the cost of their apartment or cost of where they do business, their office, if you like.
Sure.
They should be able to have the same write-offs economically as any other business.
Sure.
And the caveat to that as well is that there needs to be medical checkups every 2 weeks, paid for by the professional, but deductible as any other medical appointment would be for a test of any kind. So they could be considered exactly the same way.
Maybe part of what makes prostitution so enticing is the fact that it's illegal. It's considered naughty.
No.
So that is even more exciting.
Well, to some, but I think that there's a large number of people out there that have sexual fantasies that they can run through with a professional. Somebody who's really frustrated at home. Maybe I don't know. Maybe his wife or husband can't perform anymore.
That's a good point.
So I think if it's talked about between the partners, and there may not be a middle ground, and there may not over my dead freaking body, then that's a decision you have to make as a couple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if it was sit down and discussed
and
said, look, hey, I'm just getting out for the release. I'm not getting out because I'm in love with the pool boy. I'm not leaving. I don't want to end the relationship. But there's one facet here that doesn't work. And I'm still in the game. So how do we deal with that?
So do you think that's more of a guy thing?
No.
Guy mentality?
No, not at all. I think women are just as not guilty. I think women are just as needy and just as...
Do you think women would be able to view what you just said like a man would?
Oh, I don't think so. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't agree. Your whole
like if
system
my
is different than mine.
pieces and parts didn't work. I don't know, like...
Would you begrudge me as your partner? Would you begrudge me the opportunity to go out and, enjoy a little release tonight?
That's what I'm saying, like...
Well, how would you see it? I mean, I guess, would you see it as
In my head, I'm thinking, would there not be a way that I could still please you?
Well, you sure could.
Like,
yeah, you could. I mean, there's all kinds of ways.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why do you have to go find somebody else?
But if you're not interested in doing any of those things...
How can you not be interested in your significant other? That's what I don't understand.
But that's your point of view.